guys, welcome back to Lila the podcast. I'm your host Alexa, and it's just me today, but I'm excited. I want to do a cozy little episode today because this is my last night in my house, which I'm sad about. I've been so emo about it all honestly for like a month now. And even though it's something that I'm choosing, it's just, yeah, I'm just sad. I love my house. I love where I live. I love everything about it. So it's tough, but that also brings me to the topic of today's conversation and today's podcast episode, which is navigating change and moving from one era of life to the next and how to get through all of that, because I've definitely been struggling, but it's not something that's new to me. I've done this many, many times, and so it doesn't hurt in like a sharp way, but just in a way that's like, I don't like feeling sadness. And part of me, I'm going to be just honest about this for a second. Part of me wishes that I could cry about it and just, because I think that it would help me feel release and feel better, but I'm on Lexapro, so I can't. This is the one that's worked best for me because some other antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications make me feel like no emotion. So like I'm not feeling depressed, but I also have a hard time feeling joy, which is a common experience for people. But I feel like the dosage I'm at right now and the medication I'm on is good, but I just can't cry unless something were to really happen. I just feel like it would feel so good. You know what I mean? I miss being sad. As if I just said that. Literally, my depressed self can never hear me ever say that. But anyway, just a cozy little episode. A little short, fun one. Well, is it even fun? No. But it's fun for me to record by myself sometimes because, I love having different guests on, but it is definitely kind of, I don't want it to feel like an interview, but it is more usually based on, focusing on the other person's experiences, which is, exactly what I want to do. I want to be sharing people's cool stories. That's the whole premise of why I started the podcast. You know, I wanted to bring an element of travel to people that can't travel for one reason or another. And one of my favorite parts of travel is the cool people that I meet. And so I thought, how can I bring that? And it's by having people on the podcast, which is so much fun. And I love it so much. And I'm excited to have more people on. But with that being said, sometimes it's fun to just get on the microphone by myself and gab a little bit. But yeah, so basically I felt like a life update was needed. If you follow me on Instagram at the beginning of the summer, well, actually maybe May, I had posted and just said I'm taking a step back. So I definitely took a step back social media wise. I posted maybe once a week for the podcast. I've stayed consistent with the podcast episodes, which is a really big goal of mine, that I want to stay consistent every week. Besides, well, last week I was and I wasn't, which I'll get into later. But I also just wanted to take a step back in general because I felt like I was losing the love for it and kind of losing sight and feeling like I was failing. But I just think I needed to get away from the socials a bit. And I'm feeling like it's time for another social media cleanse, to be honest, because I just find myself wasting so much time scrolling, and time that I literally do not have right now. I'm going through a big life change and it's great, but girl, you don't have time to scroll on TikTok. I don't know what I think I'm doing. But anyway, so I've definitely taken a step back. I haven't posted anything on my blog since that time either, which is a bit weird because I was doing it pretty consistently for the first part of the year, and I want to post on the blog more, but it's also just hard. I think I'm just facing this creative block, and hopefully this life change that I'm making will help me feel a bit more inspired, a little bit out of my rut, because I have felt like in kind of a weird rut, I don't know what I'm doing space for the last year of my life. And that's partially just from being home and partially because of my age, which I spoke about on my Turning 25 episode. If you haven't listened to it, you should definitely go check it out for sure. It's with my bestie girl, Clara, and I was in full-blown quarter-life crisis mode at that point, which, I feel like I'm past that kind of crisis where I'm feeling anxious all the time, I feel pretty secure in like the decisions that I've made, but I am still feeling like a little bit like I'm just kind of floating around and I don't really know my destination, if that makes sense. I feel like people have kind of like goals as far as establishing a life in one place that they're trying to reach. They're getting engaged, they're getting married, they're having children, they're getting a dog, they're buying a house, this, that, and or at least wanting that in the near future. And it's not something that I want at all in the near future. And so it can be kind of hard when you're in that like floating zone. So that has definitely been something that has contributed to being in a rut for the last year. And I also think a big part of it has just been being back at my home state of Minnesota. And don't get me wrong, I love Minnesota in the summertime and in the fall, but the winters are really tough. And I think it's just it's a really, really weird knowing that I have in like the pit of my stomach. And I don't necessarily know that I have spoken to somebody or have someone close to me that like feels the same way. Or I guess some people close to me feel the opposite way, where they have this gut feeling that they know that they're meant, like they want to be in Minnesota and establish their life here. And for me, it's hard to explain to other people because I don't know where I want that to be, but I just feel in my gut that like this Twin Cities area is not where I'm meant to be. And that's a really, really weird feeling when where you were born and raised, like my whole life was in Minnesota, and then I become an adult and it doesn't feel like the right place for me. I mean, it's just really unsettling when home has these kind of battling emotions where I feel a sense of like comfort and peace. I am, in a weird way, I'm a homebody, even though I go and backpack around for like months on end. I know it doesn't sound right, but it just is. And I love this sense of home and this feeling of peace. But I think what I have come to realize is that is meant to be a temporary feeling for me. And if I get stuck in it too long, I feel like stunted and in a rut and not happy and like I'm not headed towards something. And I've loved this last year living at home and having the opportunity to be close to people. But ultimately, I decided it was time for a change. And so I am going to be leaving Minnesota. I'll be bouncing around for a bit, but that's the reason that I'm moving out of my house. I live in a house with one of my dear, dear friends and her dog, and we've been friends since the beginning of high school. It's been so much fun to live in her house, and it's just like the cutest little girly house, plus Benny the dog, and I've just loved it. I feel safe here. I feel happy here. I feel like I was able to make my own little space in my room that I was so proud of. And it was really sad to start taking those things down off the walls and thinking about, okay, what do I want to get rid of? And so I'm leaving that era, and that's hard. But I have some other things that I'm excited for too. So ultimately, back in June, I decided that I just felt it in my gut, and I started to first feel it, I think, in May, maybe. And that was, the 25th birthday was on the horizon, and I was thinking about, what do you want next? Do you want to get a new job? Like, I've been waitressing for the last year, and, it's fun, and I like it, and it's decent money, but I also, it's not really where my passions lie. I got a degree in psychology and in communications, and there are careers that I would like to have. And so I got to this point where it was like, okay, you either need to go out and get some of this like wandering adventure out of your system, or you need to hunker down and set roots and get a job and decide that this is where you want to be or it's not. But it was kind of getting to that point where I was like, okay, this was supposed to be a temporary situation. And now you've been here over a year, and it's time to figure it out. So I just felt it in my gut. And then I started sorting out some things that I thought, what do I want to do? And so I've mentioned it before. I don't really talk about my relationship publicly, but I am in a long distance relationship, and I am in Minnesota and my boyfriend is in Western Australia. So obviously it was like I knew my person wasn't in Minnesota, but I didn't think that they were going to be on the complete opposite side of the world. Literally, we're about as far as two people can get from each other. So we have not seen each other in about 6 months, and I'm very, very excited because we finally get to see each other this month. So I decided that I definitely want to see him in some way, shape, or form, whether that was him coming here, me going there, or us meeting in the middle. But I actually was the one that went to him last, so that wasn't going to be the case again. And I really wanted us to experience traveling together, and so did he. And so we're going to be meeting up in Europe for a few weeks, which I'm so excited about. And before that, I'm going to Chicago to see some friends. And then after I get back, I'll be home for about 10 days, living with my dad, who is the best ever. And if you listen to the episode with him, you know that, and you would want to live with him for 10 days too. So then after that, I actually got a position for another work exchange. And so I can't believe I'm doing it again. I'm excited. I don't know what to expect. I may have boosted my qualifications on the application, and I am needing to quickly learn a language in 2 months. But I'm really, really excited for that, and just to see what that's like and what that's all about. And it's the type of work exchange position that I have wanted to do for a long time. Like, I just knew at some point in my life I wanted to do something like this, and I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm like, I want to have a bit more adventure, but I think soon I'll be ready to kind of like plant myself a little bit more instead of being in this limbo, and, you know, try out building a life somewhere else, which I have done before, but it was a bit more temporary. And then I think I'm going to go backpack around near there for a little bit. So I'll be going to kind of like Central America, which I'm super excited for. And I don't know exactly where yet. You guys know how I do. I usually go on a whim. Like, this is the most planned that I've been. When I go solo backpacking, I like to fly around. But really exciting is that I am really trying to convince Minka to come with me. So, and you guys know Minka. You know she's a legend. You know she's the best. You know that she should come to Central America with me. So, if one person comments and tells her to go, she will go. So just like literally that's all we need. One person, and she will come. And she might not even need that much convincing. But yeah, and then I'll come home, and then after that, I plan to go on another great adventure. And I'm not really ready to disclose that one yet because I just feel like it's so far off, and I don't like to talk about what I'm going to do before I do it because I just, things can change. I wasn't supposed to be back in Minnesota for as long as I was, and I was supposed to go on another adventure a year ago, and now it's a year later, and I'm finally leaving. So, but I'm excited, and it's so much fun and adventure and things that I've been looking forward to and things that I want to do, that it is a great thing going forward. Like, moving out of this house feels like a big life change because it's not just that. It's also that I'm leaving my job in a bit and leaving my life in Minnesota here and my friends here and my relationships here, and I'm agreeing to be okay with missing some big life moments that might happen for some of my friends, or not being able to be there for certain things or for birthdays or this or that. And so that's always hard, but it's just that there's like this push and pull, right? I'm of course really excited for all of that adventure and to see what happens. Like, I feel like I've been stuck in this kind of dullness for a while, and as soon as I made the decision to leave, I just felt this lightness, and that's how I knew that I was doing the right thing and that I was trusting my gut and that this is what's next for me. And I can know that wholeheartedly and still feel sad about the current era of life that I've been in for the last year and some change ending. And so how I've approached this is I think I've gone through enough life transitions and different eras of life, right? So like, you're a kid, and then I go from being a kid with a family that's together, and then my parents get divorced, and that's a new era of life and a new adjustment, a new idea of, okay, this is what my life looks like now, and that's what it used to look like. And how many times I've moved, and then going from elementary to middle to high school to college. College is a big jump. And then moving away from college and being like, oh my gosh, I'm not a student anymore. Now I'm entering the workforce. So now I'm doing this and that. And then, I went backpacking for the first time. I moved to Hawaii. I came back. I went backpacking again. I came home. Now I'm going to be leaving. And it's the same that I felt with any era ending and a new one starting, and it's this push and pull, and it's so hard. And the thing is that we're not really taught how to handle it, and I just had to learn through experiencing it and being like, I have these really conflicting emotions because even though I know that moving on from this era of life and moving on to the next thing is like exactly what my gut was telling me to do, it's exactly what I feel best and right about, I'm still so sad about leaving this behind and being like, oh my God, I'm not going to live in this house anymore. Like when I drive home from work, it's not going to be to here. And when I'm not going to live with my friend anymore. And when we want to hang out, it's going to have to be more intentional. And like, I'm going to come over here and I don't have a bedroom here anymore. Or I'm not even going to be in Minnesota to be able to come hang out. And it's just, it's sad. And I think what I needed to do and what I have been doing, and it's the best way to do it, in my opinion, is instead of trying to fight those feelings of being upset about it and people just being like, what? You should be so excited. You're going off to travel. Yes, but I allow myself to feel sad and emotional about it while I'm still in that chapter. So like until it's officially closed, I haven't really moved on. Like once I have moved out of this place and I'm settled into the new place, then I think I'll be like, okay, I've accepted the change. This is the way life looks now. Now I can be a little bit more settled with it and get excited for the future. But I have a harder time being excited for the future when I'm still in the midst of like closing the last chapter. And so, yeah, what I've just been doing is allowing myself to feel that like, I'm sad. And even though I know this is right, I have to just let it happen. And so, yeah, change is hard, right? I mean, it's not easy, and growing pains, oh my God, it just never seems to end, does it? But unfortunately, I don't like getting too comfortable, even though I'm somebody that loves being like a homebody, kind of loves being lazy, chilling on the couch. That is my shit. I love that. But I know that in order to feel like wholly fulfilled, I have to keep adventuring. I need to go explore the world. I have big dreams to fill, and now is the time to do it. And I heard this Brene Brown, or a sound on TikTok from Brene Brown, and basically she just says like, I wish somebody had told me in my 20s to go backpack around and to go do this and to go start that and to learn and grow and not just like rot away in this job that doesn't make me happy and do this and that just because it feels like it's the next right thing. And I know, and I felt really reassured by that, because I was like, okay, you're doing the right thing. Like, you're following your gut. You're having the adventures. You will have all those things that the other people around you have. You just don't have them yet. And that's a message that I've been reiterating time and time again on this podcast, especially with the Turning 25 episode. And in order to experience that and live this life that I feel fulfilled by, I just have to go through constant change. And I have learned, and I have been able to become so much more resilient with accepting things are changing and big life changes. Like, I remember when I was younger, I had a lot harder time with it. Like, I would fall into a mini depression when something changed that was huge, and now I can kind of handle it in a different way and just accept it a little bit more. And I know that living life in a way that you are fulfilling your dreams and you're going for after the adventure and you're backpacking around and you're traveling, you're doing this and that. Like, I know it's coming from a privileged place, and I am so grateful and happy that I've had the support that I have, that I am able to live with my dad in between adventures, and he encourages me to go, and that I have people that just support me and want to see me do this. So yeah, so I'm excited for what's next, and I'm grieving the stage of life that I'm leaving. And I know that in hindsight, it won't be so sad, right? Like, I look back at when I decided to leave Hawaii, and I'm like, yep, that was right. That felt wholeheartedly right. And when I knew it was time to come home from backpacking, it's like, yep, that was right. And even though it was kind of like, oh, dang, I can't believe this is already over. It's like when you plan and plan and plan for a trip, and then all of a sudden it goes by so fast, and you're like, oh my gosh, what? The 5 days is over already? Like, the anticipation. But I feel like just I've matured in the way that I'm able to actually genuinely look back at it with gratitude and be like, oh, I'm so glad that this is what it was. And now it's time to just take a deep breath and get ready for what's next. So I kind of love growing older in that way and being able to handle change a lot better. But it is hard that what they say, that cliche that is kind of annoying to hear, but it's totally true, that the only thing consistent in life is change, and that nothing is really meant to last forever. That can be really unsettling, and it can be hard to hear, but it also can be kind of comforting in that this is just the way life is. And I'm so grateful that I'm collecting these different eras. You know, I think about how boring would my life, well, okay, if this, the life that I'm wanting to live, how boring would it be if I just never left my hometown and I just did what was the right next thing, and I never really considered what I actually wanted. I just followed what other people did and told me was right and next, and I never really chased different eras of life, and I just was kind of stuck in the same thing over and over and over again for years. I think about how boring that would be, and I'm actually really grateful for all the goodbyes and hellos and endings of eras and beginnings of new ones, and that adjustment period and getting used to a new thing, because the truth is that you just got to get back into the swing of things, you know? It's kind of like starting a new semester in school was always like a weird thing. You know, you don't have the same people in your classes anymore. You don't have the same classes sometimes, and you kind of have to create a new groove with your schedule, and it just feels weird. And that's just like, how often was that changing? All the time. Every couple of months you'd get a new schedule, you'd get a new this, new that. So it's honestly, I'm so sorry, I know it's so annoying to hear, but it is true what they say, like the only thing consistent in life is change. And once you're able to handle that better, it just gets a lot more enjoyable. And so I am, in short, I am so, so incredibly grateful for all of the kitchen dance parties and the painting our nails and the watching Love Island and the sweet little treat late night runs with my lovely friend and roommate. And although I'm sad that it's ending, it was always going to have an end date. Just because we didn't know when it was didn't mean that it wasn't going to happen. And so I'm sad that it's over. I can't believe how freaking fast that it went. And I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like there were days I took for granted living here. But I am so, so grateful that I got this at all. Like, I was maybe not going to because I wanted to save money or this or that. And I just think, no, like paying the rent, paying this, living with everything was worth it about it. And I'm so, so happy and grateful for this era of life that I had. And as I like lay my head on my pillow in this house, in my room for the last time tonight, I am just going to soak it all in. And I feel like I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to take advantage of like the neighborhood that we live in. We are really lucky that we have access to the lake, and I try to go swimming a lot or go down to the dock, and I go for walks on our really nice walking paths and just in our beautiful little neighborhood. I feel like there have been a lot of times that I took good advantage of where I live, and I feel happy about that. And I think because I knew like it wasn't forever, I tried to be really mindful of that, even though I didn't know when the end date was. And so I'm really proud of myself for being able to look at this change and be really grateful for like the time that we had living in this way. And I'm going to simultaneously also allow myself the space and time to be sad about leaving it, even though it was completely my choice. And this is a choice that I made, and I am excited about it, but there are some drawbacks too, of course. Like, in order to go towards something, you have to leave something else behind. And that's tough. But I just want to keep it short and sweet, just a little life update. I quit my job to go traveling for the next few months, so I am potentially like pretty unemployed for a while, and that feels super weird and super wrong, but now is the time to do it. And I'm just excited. I'm so excited for the next adventure, and I can't believe that it's real. And I forgot who I was for a second, and now I need to remind myself that I'm a badass bitch who goes solo traveling and backpacking all by herself. And I did that, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm creating a beautiful, beautiful, full life. And these are just the growing pains, and I feel like I just feel like I'm in a much better place than I was a couple of months ago. I feel proud of myself. I feel happy. I feel a little bit scared and nervous, but also trusting my gut that I know that this is what's right. And yeah, it's really, really fun when you can see growth in yourself. And actually, I totally forgot to talk about this, but I'm going to slip it in here quick. I did want to talk about how there was but wasn't an episode last week. So last week I did post an episode called You Can Survive Losing Friends, and I kept it up for 2 days, and then I actually decided to delete it. And it was something that I again had to trust my gut about, because I really, really wanted to speak about this. I really wanted to talk about this time in my life and just going through that, because I wanted to help somebody else that was going through that, because it was just so hard, and I felt so alone, and I felt like such a loser at the time, which, obviously was not. But after listening to it again, once it was public, I listened to that episode time and time and time and time again. And then after it was published, I had looked back at it and was like, okay, what did you want to accomplish with this? Because in the beginning, we had said that we didn't want to bash anyone. We didn't want to, it wasn't to throw dirt on anyone's name. And we never shared names about Lola was the guest, who we used to be friends with or didn't. But I still felt like it just, what was the value in sharing that besides just trying to say our piece, I just looked back at it, I listened back and decided that wasn't how I wanted to tell my story. And I wanted to give more value in helping somebody get through going through friend loss, rather than just saying, oh, this is what happened to me, this is what happened to me. And I felt like we got a little bit more caught up in our own stories rather than saying advice and things on how you can get through it. And so I would love to release an episode like that in the future, but ultimately I decided to delete it. And I felt a push-pull again, because I was I really, really wanted to stay consistent with new episodes every single week, every single Wednesday. And I have been since I launched. I have launched a new episode every single Wednesday. And so it was really hard for me, because I was then I just don't have an episode, and then I missed a week. But I had to think about what was more important to me, the fact that maybe I missed a week, or the fact that I felt like I was regretting something that I had put out there in the way that and decided that wasn't how I wanted to tell my story, and I know exactly how I want to tell it, and that wasn't it. And so I decided to delete it, and I feel really good about seeing that growth in myself and trusting okay, you're feeling really anxious after releasing that episode. Why do you feel so anxious? And I guess that was the reason. And so, while I do not think that we necessarily said anything bad, and while I don't necessarily think that we owe protecting anybody else to the people that, really hurt us in the past, I also felt like I wanted to protect my own character. And I realized in sharing something publicly that I actually wasn't ready to speak about it publicly yet, because I learned as I was editing, as I posted, as I was going through things, that I actually have a lot of unresolved feelings towards myself and towards those people, and it just wasn't the time. And as much as I think that it's in the rear view, I learned that, healing from it and the trauma of it all is something that, while it doesn't sting as much, it still hurts me. So that is why you may have seen that I said that I posted an episode and then it went away. I do think I'll still share clips from it, like on Reels and TikTok and such. But I don't know that at this time I feel like I want to re-release the full episode. So that is what happened there, if anybody noticed. But thanks so much for checking in for just this kind of little life update one. We will have guests again next week, of course, back to the regular scheduled programming. But just as I'm going through this life change, I just kind of wanted to get on the microphone and gab a little bit and talk about what's next for me, because I haven't really talked about it on Lila yet. So if you want to support, of course, follow on socials. I think I'm actually going to make a TikTok just for the podcast. So that'll probably be Lila the Podcast. Lila by Alexa Joe is everything else on socials. Of course, check out the website if you haven't. Listen to other episodes. If you love the podcast, please give it a rating and review. If you don't really like it, you can skip that part. And share with friends, of course. And yeah, I thank you so much for listening. It means so, so much to me. And turn on automatic downloads if you haven't. But I hope that your week and the beginning of this month is just filled with Lila moments, and that you're figuring out what it is that makes you feel like life is worth living, because I think I've kind of found my way back to that, and I am looking forward to seeing what's next. So yeah, that's all I got.